Okey-doke. I think I did this right. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. I don't know why, but I totally forgot my little opening thingy there for like half a second. Welcome to the stream, guys. Welcome, welcome. We're streaming blacksmithing today. Except we're not. We're actually streaming well, maybe we might stream a tiny bit of blacksmithing. But we're mostly going to be streaming fabrication today. So welcome to the stream, everybody. Hello, hello. So, let's see. Let's go back a little bit and kind of streaming Sparks. Yes, we are streaming Sparks. So yeah, let's go back a little bit and kind of talk about what we've been up to lately. So we just got back on Sunday, and we were streaming on Saturday at the BAM conference, which is the Blacksmith Association of Missouri. So I'm still a little bit tired from that, but we're okay. We're doing good. So yeah, and since we got back, we are continuing to work on our fabrication project. Now, our fabrication project, we're building a tool that we can use to blacksmith. So this tool is a blacksmith's helper. Sometimes it's also referred to as a guillotine tool. Actually, most of the time it's referred to as a guillotine tool, but I'm trying my best to kind of like, use the more PC name because, I've had some shackles and some chains as my titles recently, and I'm a little bit, nervous of like the YouTube algorithm getting mad at me for using questionable language in my titles. So we're calling it the Blacksmith's Helper instead. So we have all of our pieces cut out. We've got a front and a back, and this is our base. I cut out today, these are the sides, right? So these are going to be welded between the two plates to kind of space them out. This is 5/8 square stock in imperial measurements, and it's 7 inches long for each of these. So our design that we stole was the Christ-centered Ironworks version of this tool, and their dies are 5/8 inch wide. So we're gonna try these. This might be a little bit challenging to get them in there. They might not have much in the way of wiggle room, but we're gonna use them anyway. All right, so we are in the middle of an ad break. Hey, Shelly, welcome to the stream. So I'll probably take a pause a little bit, and then we can continue talking about what we're up to today. Where did I put my right there? Ad break. All right, I got oil all over my floor. The butler is Zen 2999. I really need to like get them on my account or on my Twitch or like gift them a sub or something. Something like that. Alrighty. I like to keep my water over there so that I don't end up getting like metal dust all up in it. It's kind of gross when you're, when you're starting to drink your water and you get to the very like last, centimeter in the bottom of the cup and it's a whole big swig of metal dust. Not pleasant. All right. Oh, goodness gracious. It has been a week. I cannot believe it's Friday already. It's been so quick because, we had just gotten home from BAM and I had to rest on Monday. So, I didn't even start my week until Tuesday. So it's like, yes, it's very logical that it's Friday today, but it sure doesn't feel like it. Hey, Dr. Optimal, greetings. Are we smacking metal or slicing it? First slicing, then smacking, and then welding. Sound good? I hope it sounds good. So, we are now continuing our the next step on our front and back plate, and that is cutting out a window so that we can put our steel and pass it through the dies. So last Wednesday, what we did was we drilled holes in each of the corners of our steel so that we can use the angle grinder to cut slits in here and have a nice stop. So when we turn this around, you can see that we have a nice end and nice corners to each of the slices. So now our angle grinder is pretty big, like the disc. So we're going to be able to do the long sides, but we will not be able to use the angle grinder for the short sides. So what we're going to do instead of using the angle grinder is we are actually, that's where we're going to be pounding steel, right? We're going to be taking a chisel that fell on the floor over here, a chisel, and we're going to heat up these plates, and we're going to use it just like we would use a punch. So we're going to be punching out these windows with our chisels. So that'll be a little bit later on in the stream. And then once those are done, we'll quench those off in the water because this is just mild steel. So it's not tool steel or anything like that. So quenching it won't do anything. So after that, we're going to dry it all off as best we possibly can. And then we are going to weld the pieces together. So the first pieces that we're going to weld on is these guys, which are our sides. And then once those are adequately welded on, we will put the other plate on. So, like I said, the first thing that we need to do is slice our three remaining lines. So what I'm hearing is Ray is accepting donations for her new CNC plasma cutter. I mean, yeah, if you guys want to donate enough for a CNC plasma cutter, I am all for that, you know. Donations are on my KoFi, you know. I'm not gonna ask for that. I don't like begging for money or anything like that. I mean, it's hard enough just getting by these days. But you know, if you got a couple, you know, million extra, and you just wanna, you know, donate to the cause. I was trying to figure out what the tools were on the back wall. It says Smithy, I need new glasses. Yeah, so the back wall over here is our project wall. These are all projects that we have done in the past. So we've got 2 attempts at an axe. We've got a ladle. We've got the sign. It says Ray's Smithy. And the Smithy is a different technique for each letter because I thought that would be really cool. And then we've got we did scissors, but they're not on the wall. We've got silverware, we've got a grill set, we've got a rose, a trivet, and some leaves, and we've got some viewer submissions as well. There is a knife over there and a candy cane that were viewer submissions. Evil on Toast, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the community. All right. So now I think we're ready. And a she shed to put on it, right? I definitely need, I need a bigger shop for, you know, some bigger tools, right? I also would love to have a power hammer, you know? But yeah, okay. So, like I said, we're going to be doing some cuts first. 3 specifically. I might add 2 more, but I haven't decided yet. Anyway, what I do? There they are. Goodness gracious. Alrighty. So, I'm going to switch cameras, and this is going to be a little bit darker. We are going to be doing a little bit of welding, so I have a filter on this guy. And let's see. Let's see if I can, well, I don't know that I want to do that. I'm just going to use it this way. It's going to be a little bit dark today. So apologies in advance. Alrighty. Let's go. I'm going to be a little bit quiet as we do this because, you know, it's really loud and stuff. But let's start. Let's do this. I'm getting a little bit of extra grab. You can kind of see me jerking this direction. It's because we're starting to dull out on this blade, so I'm going to change it. I don't know if Throne has those items, but you never know. Time for a wish list. Right? And I'm using the post vice because for whatever reason, the really thick stuff, it makes it very difficult to get these guys undone. It kind of sticks a lot. But such pretty sparks. Did I lose my I did. Like I think I've only had 2 weeks where I've owned this guy while still owning the tool. It's like ridiculous. I mean, the stupid angle grinder tools, they are as close to a 10mm socket as you can get. Constantly losing them. Normally I would use my multi-tool, but I don't want to break it. It's really stuck. All right, let's keep on keeping on. Alrighty, so we are done with this plate. We just have the little tiny ones. Ugh. Every once in a while, you get like a little bit of something like underneath of your safety glasses. It's not in my eye, it's like in my eyelashes, so I'm safe for the moment, but I gotta kind of get it out. So yeah, we now have the 2 long lines on this one all finished. A trick my dad always did was tie them up or tie them to the cord if it's a corded tool. Ooh, that is a really good idea. I might have to steal that for the next one, you know? Or maybe I need to build one for this guy and then do that. Yeah, like I said, I'll just use my multi-tool, right? But when I'm doing the half-inch plate, it just gets on there super duper tight. And then it makes it really, really hard to get it off. Like when it happens and I have the big grinder discs on there, you can just run them along the floor and it'll loosen it up like that. However, these like cutter discs, they're so thin that if you try and run them along the floor, you'll end up just like they'll buckle. And so it seems like the post vise is working all right for the most part, unless they get really, really small and thin before they dull out too much. But yeah, drill chuck keys. See, my new drill, the one that I was using on Wednesday, it has a chuck key holder on the side of it. So I just need to remember to put the chuck key in the chuck key holder, you know? It was ingenious that way. See, the ones at school, they actually put rigging cables and attached them to the drill presses, so you couldn't actually walk off with the drill keys. They were stuck by rigging, like the metal rigging stuff to the drill presses. So yeah. All right. Well, I'm not wearing my dust mask. I'm gonna drink some water. Yes, the magnet would work too for a press. And I see this guy right here. This is the thing that opens and closes the valve for the press. This I probably need to put a magnet on it. I just keep it right here, so that way, but occasionally I'll be walking through here and I'll knock it off and forget I've done it. So I don't know. One of these days I'll get more organized. All right. So you guys can totally see the Wolverine scratches, or I guess it's more like X23 the Wolverine, because Wolverine has 3 and X23 has 2 claws. So we've got the little claw marks there. Now we're going to make them on the other side. We also need to shorten this a little bit. You can kind of see a ghosting of the line right there. I don't know if you guys can see in the big screen, but you might be able to in the little one. I don't know. We might want to take that off a little bit later on. I haven't quite decided what we want to do with that. So for the moment, we are going to connect the circles, or like the drilled holes together and make our second set of cuts. We all say that, and then the process of organizing other things gets disorganized. I agree, man. Constantly, I start cleaning stuff, and then I see, it never fails, right? When I try and start organizing stuff, I forget that I've done it, and then I will look in the old spot where it used to be and forget that I put it in a new spot. It never fails. Cleaning up is how things get lost. Exactly. All right, I'm going to change the angle on this camera real fast just because, the butler is watching and I have to make sure that I impress him. With my moving of the camera. Is that going to be an acceptable angle? I think it'll be acceptable for the moment. Because, all right, let's see. Did I hit the record button? Yes, I did. Hey, I'm doing things today. Yes, move the camera, camera monkey. Right? We're gonna put that there. Alrighty. Let's keep on keeping on. Oh, every time I make a new cut, I am reminded why the Christ-centered design is made in half or in quarter-inch plate and not half-inch plate, because while the quarter-inch plate is, it's less durable, it's not going to last quite as long. It's so much easier to cut it open and manufacture. But I have to do things. I can't do them halfway. The half-inch plate, it's gonna be great, right? It's gonna last for a really long time. Fingers crossed and all that. Or I'm gonna screw it completely up. Maybe there's a reason besides ease of manufacture. I don't know. Check my focus. Oh, oops. Oh, it seems to be okay. Okay, cool. Okay. See, my problem is, right, I can see the screen when I'm like this, right? But then when I've got the mask on, you start breathing and the air goes in and I get like foggy and I can't read anymore. It'll be extra sturdy. You're not gonna bend it with a straight strap. Exactly. That's why I decided, because I have a bunch of quarter-inch plate, right? It's not just because I happen to have some half-inch. I deliberately chose the half-inch because I knew that if I hammered and I struck wrong, that I'd be liable to collapse the machine. So I decided 1/2 inch plate would be a little bit better. Well, you know, it's also a little bit harder. So yeah, I don't know. As far as the focus, I don't know. I thought I focused it. But maybe it's just because, you know, like I said, my glasses are a little bit foggy themselves. And also, as far as lag, we're doing really good. I don't even see, I see, how many frames dropped do we got today? None. Knock on wood, because, you know, every time I say that we're doing great, the stream will just collapse on me. So knock on wood. I mean, you know, we're doing great. Good laptop, good internet. All right. So we've got one more slit to make. And then I have to decide whether I want to cut the ends off. I'll probably leave that on for the moment because at any point, I can cut off those excess pieces, even after I've welded everything together, if I need to. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of, I'm just going to leave it for now. And you are totally and completely right, Dr. Optimal. The camera is a lot darker today. The reason it's darker is because I have an ND filter on it, or like, I guess it's I don't know. The Butler knows what it's called, but it's a darkening filter so that when we get to the welding portion, it's going to work in the camera a little bit better, right? Because if you use a bare camera while you are attempting to film welding, it will burn out the sensor over time. So I'm trying to save our sensors by putting a darkening filter on there. You can also see it a little bit easier that way too. Yes. It's a circular polarizer variable ND filter combo. Yes, that. I could have in the very beginning, like, brought the f-stops up so that I could, like, you know, see a little bit more light, but I'm just like, it's fine. We're doing a lot of sparks today, so you'll be able to see the cuts a little bit easier. It's not going to white out as badly, so I just figured we'd leave it a little on the dark side. Okay. I will change the angle on it, though. That way, y'all can see, you know, if you can't see very well on one angle, you'll be able to see pretty good on another angle. So this time, we're going to go a little bit lower so we can get a good, and I need to move the angle grinder so that I can make sure that you guys can see the cut. And I put it in focus. Okay. I believe that's in focus. Okay, cool. All right, safety equipment, safety equipment. So I wore my dust mask and yes, let's see. So yeah, I wore my dust mask and on Wednesday, and when I was taking a shower afterwards, I could just see the nasty from that gets in here, because not all of it is prevented. So, you know, the best you can do with these guys, but definitely need them. I don't know what that means, Butler. All right, so we've got a ad starting in about 3 minutes. So I'm going to start this anyway. And you might not be able to see the end of it, but because of the ad. All right. So I apologize, but I want to keep us moving. All right. It's going to have to be our last cut because the angle grinder's starting to get hot. All right, we've got a nick. Where is it? I don't even see it, but I can feel it. The jiggling like that, that's from a nick in the blade. So we're going to change this. All right, well, I guess I will start again after the ad. But like I said, I got a nick in the blade. Ooh, it's hot. Come on. Press the button. There it goes. All right. Ooh, you can definitely see the chip. It's right there. Or maybe that's from the angle grinder. I mean, from the post vise. I don't know. Something like that. Alrighty. We're about halfway done with this cut. Yeah, I definitely don't want a piece of it flying off. I don't want it to be jumping up and down because that can cause a lot of problems, a lot of issues. So, you know, that's why I bought a 25 pack at the beginning of this project because I knew I was going to be using a lot of them. So, I mean, we've got how many left? 3, 6. We got 9 left, you know. So we've used quite a few of them because we're cutting through this 1/2 inch plate. So I'm going to use the ad to allow the angle grinder to cool down just a hair. I don't want to overheat the motor on it. And so once that's back up and running, we will definitely do our next cut. Ooh, you know what? You know what? I won't have to leave the stream in order to get more water. The butler is watching the stream. That means I can ask the butler to, you know, give me water when I need it. That's exciting. Oh, one of these fell off, didn't it? Oh, let's pick that. That's kind of loud. Let's pick that up. So once we finish this cut, oh, you know what? We're still in the middle of the ad. So I'm gonna wait to make that comment. Goodness gracious. Super excited. Hey, you know what? So I have this habit of when I'm leaving the house, I have to check my pockets. And I call it the pocket Macarena. So I like pat my front pockets, pat my back pockets, just to make sure that I've got my keys, my wallet, my multi-tool, and my phone. And so earlier today, I left the house and I did the pocket Macarena. I patted all my pockets and I was missing my multi-tool. It's because it was out here and I didn't go to get it, but it feels weird when I don't have it in my pocket. So putting it back, you know, that makes it's a little bit, you know, soothing. You got your everyday carry, you know, it's like keys, multi-tool, wallet, and cell phone. Got to have them all. All right. So we are about halfway through our last cut that we're going to be doing with the angle grinder. Once that is completed, we're going to turn on the big forge, which means I need to actually unhook the mailbox. So yes, we're going to use the big forge and we are going to heat up these plates. We're going to take the windows completely out using the punch or the chisel. And from there, we are going to weld them together. I don't know how long this is going to take us. Hopefully, it's not too bad. Hopefully, we're able to get the welding done today. If not, we'll do a little bit more. This is my next in-shop video will be this video. So, if I don't get it done in time, I guess you'll get 2 BAM videos in a row. Alrighty. I need this weekend to rest, Okay. Let's put our safety gear back on, but first we're gonna... Hey, Corwin, welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. I'm still a little tired, but that's an everyday occurrence for me these days, I feel like. All right. Safety glasses. Wow. These are safety glasses. This is a dust mask, and I need my headphones. Let's do this. All right. Ooh. All right, let's do this. Alrighty, and that was our last cut. Ninja mask, check. New cutting wheel, check. Let's do this. Exactly. Welcome to the stream, Norse. All right. We have now come to the point where I'm going to have to change our whole set. So we have been using my welding table this whole time because, it's got these lovely slits in it, which makes it a lot easier for me to cut our pieces of steel on it. So I need to move this out of the way so I can grab the anvil and bring it back to the center. So don't mind me while I change sets. While I do this, I probably should start up the forge so that it's heating while I'm doing this, right? That seems pretty logical. Put this away first so I'm not tripping. Put this over here. All right. And half close the door. And we'll go over here so you guys can watch me change the set. Okay. So you can kind of see I got the anvil. Wow. One of these days, guys, One of these days. All right. So right now we're hooked up to the mailbox, and clearly these plates are not gonna fit in the mailbox. So we need to hook up the big old forge. This is why I made this forge so large, so that I could use sheet metal in it. And it would be nice and easy. All right. Why is this? Okay. Make sure there are no leaks. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do, instead of just turning this guy on, it's okay. It's a really nice, tricky vocab word. Oh, anvil? Anvil is a nice, tricky word, right? Except it's not really. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to preset it in here just to kind of make sure that like it was going to fit and stuff. And I think I am also going to spend a little bit of time figuring out the best set of tongs for this job. And I'm thinking, hey, Sandwich, I'm thinking that the best tool for this job is going to be this set of horseshoe tongs. So they've got a really fat jaw, and they're pretty hefty. I think these are going to be the way to go. So I need to make sure that I keep half of, or enough out that I can actually pick them out of the forge with these tongs. All right, so this is going to be like a two-hander job. All right, I think we're going to be all right doing it this way. I think we'll be all right. We'll have it half in there so that it's heating this section right here, and I think we're going to do all right. Okay. Everything's all nice and set up. So we're going to light this forge, and then I'm going to change the set. I'm going to do a set change. I have not used the big forge in a minute, guys. We've been really relying heavily there we go, on the mailbox lately. All right, cool. Okay. So yeah, we've been really heavily working with the mailbox, which is really efficient, and it gets a lot hotter than the big forge. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you know, when you need the big forge, you need the big forge, you know? I'm gonna move us a little bit this way. That way I can open the door all the way again so I can get all the ventilation. What did I do with those tongs? They fell on the floor over here. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is move some stuff. All right, we'll put these over here. These can go on the floor over there. And these can move this away. Over towards the laptop. All right, that should be out of the screen. And now, whee! Oh, there's pieces of half-inch plate on the floor. It helps when the anvil has a flat surface to sit on. Okay. The anvil is back. It's back in its place. All right. So I want these and these. And I want this. And I don't want to trip on that. All right, cool. New set. I don't know what this is. All right, so I'm gonna go over this one more time, and I am gonna swap the camera a little bit. I still like the same angle right here. So we're gonna keep it, but we're gonna put it in focus again. And then we're gonna get a couple different angles of this. But for now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you what I'm up to. Okay. So right now you should be able to see the little Wolverine cuts, right? In here. So you got one here, one here. So I need to connect this hole with this hole, this direction, right? And the angle grinder is way too thick to do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the chisel and we're gonna hammer through this to get rid of this little window on both sides. So we need to heat this guy up. Well, the one in the forge is being heated already. And then we're going to hammer it just like a punch. So it's going to take us a little bit because, you know, we got to get through this lovely half-inch plate. So it might actually take us the whole rest of the stream. I'm hoping it doesn't because, you know, I would like to do a little bit of welding today, a little bit. You know, I put the filter on and everything. It's all fancy. All right. So, what are you guys up to this weekend? I feel like I need to like kind of relax a bit. Last weekend was a little bit much, and I definitely need that rest. So, I do have a vet appointment for my tungsten. So I do have something to do, and I probably will get some groceries this weekend. But I think that's probably about all I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, you know, playing some video games and watching TV and relaxing on the couch. You guys doing anything exciting? Exciting. How's that plate going? It's going to take it a while to heat up, I think. I think it will. But you know what? That's all right. Because, you know, I want to make sure that we get enough heat that it's not going to be difficult to cut this piece, right? It's a lot of steel, so it's going to take a while for it to heat up. Because steel has a very, it's very difficult to solder and to heat up because the rest of the steel is going to sink that heat throughout the entirety of the piece. So I got to make sure that the entire piece is heated, not just the little area that we want to move. Hey, Bluesy. Okay, I sold my farm to my employees. I'm no longer a goat farmer. I mean, I will keep the name, but you're retired? That is exciting. Wow. Congratulations, Bluesy. What are you going to do now? Are you going to do more teaching? Or are you going to travel? Or, you know, are you just going to relax in your golden years? Learn a new skill? That's super exciting. How we doing? Whoops. We're dropping things already, guys. We're dropping things already. All right, you can kind of see that a little bit. There's a little bit of dull red that's coming through. Take up blacksmithing. Blacksmithing is a lot of work. I will teach and work for the food pantry and such. That is awesome. You know, the food pantry and places like that are always looking for volunteers. No, sorry, that's right. I'm trying to relax. That makes sense, you know. You gotta relax. Slow down a little bit. Blacksmithing is hard work, and so is goat farming. You know, gotta fix everything. And milk the goats. All right. So yeah, the first half of our stream, it looks like, or just under half of the stream, was cutting things. So we're going to continue cutting things, but we're going to be hot cutting as opposed to cutting with the angle grinder. So this should be a much more apt method of cutting things, a much more usual and typical for the stream. I hear that blacksmithing and goat farming are really very similar. I mean, they both have things. I mean, there's a lot of jobs that would be similar if that's the criteria you have. Just things. What about stuff? So, yeah. So I started editing our very first BAM video. I'm super excited. I had about 45 minutes of footage for this particular interview, and I cut it down to 6 minutes. I'm super proud of myself. That is a lot of footage to cut down in that short amount of time. So I'm super excited to share that with you guys on Wednesday of next week. And that one is an interview with the president of BAM. So it's kind of a generalized view of what was going on during the conference. You know, we talked a little bit about the presenters and the classes and everything that was going on. So I'm super excited to show that one to you guys. And then after that, I'm not sure, you know, the week after the video, I haven't decided what we're going to do yet. It's either going to be a video on this project that we're currently finishing up, or it's going to be another BAM video. I have, I believe, 3 artist interviews this time. We had 2 artist interviews for the Quad State series. We've got 3 for this one, right? There were 4 presenters, and unfortunately, I could not get the last one. I tried, but I couldn't quite line it up. So we've got an interview with a gunsmith, and we've got an interview with the 2 tool makers or household object makers. So I'm super excited for those videos as well. And we also have an interview with Rusty that it was during the stream, but I got edited up so, you know, it's a little bit more cohesive so that we can put it up on YouTube. I'm super excited. Ray and I were trying to calculate how long it takes to milk a goat on our way to BAM last week. We decided we have no idea. We did decide we had no idea because I told the butler that you have like 300 of them and you do it twice a day because that's what you had told me. And yeah, if you use a robot, it takes maybe 2 minutes to milk. By hand, it can take 5 to 10 minutes. That's a lot of goats. So I decided that you must have employees that you haven't talked a lot about. And since, you know, earlier you had said that you sold your farm to them, you must have employees that we didn't know about. A skilled milker takes 3 to 10 minutes. See, I know, I'm such a city slicker. I know nothing about milking animals, you know, and even less about milking goats. I mean, at least, you know, when you think about cows, occasionally you'll see someone milking it on TV or in a movie, but goats? People don't milk goats on TV, you know? It's not as seen on TV. The robot milks multiple goats at a time. See? I knew that it had to be a lot quicker and easier than I thought, you know? Or I guess if they do have milking goats on TV, it's maybe I'm just, you know, I haven't seen them. Oh, it's a rotating system. Okay, that makes sense. How we doing on our steel? Ooh, look at that glow. You can totally see that glow now. We're getting there. Slowly but surely, unfortunately. We'll get there, though. But yeah, I honestly I had no idea. I know that they have like the dairy farmers in the United States. They have like machines and stuff that do that. But I didn't know if I assumed they had to have them for goats too. You know. Yes, that is a big hunk of metal. So okay, so we have two of the same pieces of metal, right? And they've got the X23 claw marks in there, but we've got to take this as a window out of here, right? So the angle grinder, it's just too big to fit through there. So we've gotta use the chisel to punch it out. So we're heating up the steel. It's gonna take a little bit of time to do that. Plasma. I wish I had a plasma torch. You know, I wish I had an oxyacetylene torch. I would settle for an oxyacetylene torch, even though it would be giantly messy. I have no idea what. Okay. But for now, this is the best way that I have access to right now to cut open these windows. Welcome to the stream at Amazonian Cosplay. Hello. Hello, hello. Oxyacetylene would do it as well, indeed. Yes, it would. But oxyacetylene, it melts the steel, right? So, like, a plasma torch also melts the steel. But when you're using plasma, it's got an air compressor attached to it, right? So, not only are you using electricity to melt the steel, the compressed air blows that steel away from the piece, so you get a lot less slag, right? The oxyacetylene, you're just melting that steel, so it's got to go somewhere. And it tends to go off to the side, so it's a lot more messy than a plasma torch. So I have an oxyacetylene rig, like the hoses and stuff, but I just don't have a big enough oxygen tank for it. Got the babyest baby one. So I put that downstairs in the jewelry area because it's going to work a lot better for soldering and stuff. Because that teeny little dinky torch that I have downstairs is not going to eat nearly as much oxygen as the big old long torch that I have on the oxyacetylene rig. Plasma torches are very fun. They are very fun, but they're also relatively expensive for someone like me, right? I do have a flux core welder, but I actually bought that thing on sale. I used to work at the hardware store, Lowe's, and that one was the display model. So ordinarily it's a $600 rig, but because it was the display model and they didn't know if it even worked, they sold it for $200, and then I got a 10% employee discount on top of that. So I was super excited about our Lincoln Electric welder. So yeah, the plasma torches, oftentimes they're upwards of $800-900, and I just don't have that right now. So in the future, when I start making a little bit more money, we'll get ourselves a plasma torch. We'll get ourselves oxyacetylene so we can do really precise bends and riveting and things like that. And we'll definitely get ourselves a power hammer, you know. Yeah, I'm very lucky to have access to all the crazy expensive tools because of my stepdad. It's hard to explain my cosplay blacksmithing stuff to others who want tutorials, etc. I have to be like, sorry, you won't be able to do this exact method, right? I also am in the past I've done a lot of cosplays, and I've incorporated steel into my cosplays. So all of my emblems, I tend to make them out of steel. So I've done a nightingale, so I got like, you know, the emblem on the front, and then the belt buckle. I did an imperial belt buckle. I have done the imperial pips in steel. I also started doing an Urza Scarlet cosplay with steel armor, and I never finished that one because I didn't realize that if you want to wear real steel armor, you kind of have to pad yourself. So I didn't give myself enough room for padding. I just gave myself enough room that I could like stick it on me and then strap it down. But yeah, you gotta pad that stuff. So, you know, if you decide to do armor, like steel armor, make sure that you take that into consideration. When I finish my current project, my next one is Nemesis from Hades, all from steel. It'll be mounted to leather. See, you got, your leather as padding. That's how that works. All right, how's our steel doing? Ooh, look at that. You guys can't see that yet, but I can. We are almost there. So we've got an ad that's going to be starting in about 45 seconds. And that's going to be a 1.5-minute ad. So once that's done, it should be baked enough that we can start doing the chisel section of this. Let's check my camera. We've got about 15 minutes left in this clip, so I should be all right for the moment. We're going to move it immediately after our first heat because I need it to be a little bit higher. I want to get a really close-up for this initial one, and then from there we're going to get a higher angle, probably from over there, maybe over there, but I don't like over there because my arm is always in the way. Mahalo! Thank you so much for that resub. Thank you so much. 15 months. Goodness gracious. Has it been that long? Man. That's crazy. Thank you so much for your continued support throughout the entirety of my streaming career. Thank you so much. Yay, Friday! To be fair, the Urza design was basically armor on top of a bikini, so the design didn't have practical padding baked in. Yes, that's very true. Hema, you padded a jacket under the armor is important for comfort and protection. Yes. Yes, like I said, you really want to have a gambeson, and if you're doing full-on contact, what you need to pad the armor underneath of the gambeson as well. Just because, you want to make sure that you can feel the hits, but you don't want to hurt from the hits, Padding is important, yes. All right. I'm going to ask very nicely, Butler, can you bring me some more water? I am out of water. That's the nice part of having the butler home early. Except for, the bad part is that the butler went into work at like 5 in the morning. So they're really tired. All right, so we've got an ad break. Oh, we're in the middle of an ad break. All right. I guess it's over soon? Okay. So I guess I'm going to have to re-ask the butler because I thought we were still counting down to the ad. All right. Can I get some water? I just finished this one. That would be amazing. All right. So we're going to do our very first heat on this, and we're going to see how well it goes. Let's see. I'm going to, before I do this, I'm going to try and be a little bit organized, guys. And I'm going to try and use our big hold down. And hopefully that helps us out a little bit. Okay. I should be good. Let's try this. This might be a little bit on the awkward side. I think I'm going to put it right over there, but I can't tell until, okay. We're a little bit on the dark side, but I think we'll be all right. Doop, 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 doop. Woo! This is hot. The ambient heat from this is incredible. All right, I'm going to heat this back up again. We've got a good start going on it. Whoopsie. That's going to be fun to get out of here. All right, we're going to move the camera again. And like I said, we're going to move it over here. That way you can kind of see the whole anvil going on. Okay. Good. Okay. These heats are going to take a little bit longer between them just because it's such a large piece of steel. So we may not be able to get both sides done today. If not, we'll continue working on this probably next week, Monday, Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have it finished by Wednesday. Alrighty. Alright, the other thing I was going to do was grab a left-handed glove. So the ambient heat that's coming off of that thing is such, because it is so large, I can feel it really badly when I'm holding onto the chisel. So I'm going to put on the glove so I can protect my hand. Over time, it'll start burning a little bit like a sunburn kind of thing. And I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So leather glove. I try to be very safety conscious here on the stream. All right. I have felt like I needed to sneeze since the last angle grinder shot. So it's because it's dusty in here, you know? Super dusty. All right, are we good? We're almost good. I think we're good to try another heat. Let's try this. Super duper dark. You should be able to see the glow pretty well though. Dropping things on purpose, guys. That one wasn't so much. You guys can call me out on that one. I think we need to make sure that this gets a little bit hotter. We're losing a lot of heat. We're not getting a lot of progress. All right. Drop things again. You can kind of see a little bit that line that we're starting. It's going to take us a few. It's all sparkly. It is. Okay, so the reason that it's sparkly like that, oh, you know what? There it goes. I just wanted to make sure that I had hit the button. Okay, so the reason that it's sparkly like that is because there's a whole bunch of surface rust on the plate, right? And as it gets hot, it starts to sparkle a little bit because the color change between the rust and like the actual steel, it's starting to become scale, right? Because scale is basically hot rust. So eventually all of that surface rust is going to come off as scale off of the surface of this guy. So it's kind of, you're seeing a little bit of sparkling as it does that. I think that maybe the butler did not hear me ask for water, but that's all right. I will probably go and grab a little bit of water just because I got a little bit of a in my throat. So I'm going to grab some water and I will be right back. Apologies for doing this now instead of during an ad. Normally I would do this during an ad. Oh. It's all right. This takes forever. What? We replace our purifier. We mentioned that earlier. All right, on our way back. So smack into the door. Goodness gracious. More water. Mmm. Grit. Delicious. Alrighty, guys. How we doing on our plates? It is a cherry red, which is really nice to see, but I think I want to see it a little bit darker red, or I guess brighter red. I want it to be brighter red. Closer to the orange to yellow color. That way it'll, because right now it's still relatively hard. I think this is a hardened plate. So I want to kind of anneal it as we're doing this. Make it a little bit softer. It's not going to be a big issue because it's so thick it's not going to move a lot after it's annealed anyway. But I need it to be nice and soft so that I can chisel through it to get that window open. So yeah, this is probably a lot closer to my normal stream like style. Now that we're back to forging as opposed to doing some more fabrication. Later on, it's starting to look like it's going to be on Monday. We are going to do a little bit of welding to put these pieces together. More fabrication, guys, more fabrication. I also, so we've got a front, a back, and a base that we've cut out of the 1/2-inch plate, and then we have 5/8-inch square stock for the sides, so that we've got dies that go down the center of it, and we can use this as a tool to make different shapes, I guess. Tenons particularly are really good with this particular tool. But yeah, it sits in the hardy, and I have not made a hardy for this thing yet. If you had a rosebud torch, could you keep the heat on the piece while you chisel the cut? Yes, I could. Yes, I could. But like I said, I do not have a good oxyacetylene rig. I have the rosebud, I have the cutting head, I just don't have a tank of oxygen. My tank of oxygen is like the little 10-pound one. It's like yay big. They're super duper tiny. And my acetylene tank is a 20-pounder, right? So you need double your acetylene in oxygen in order to be able to run them out at the same time, right? Because if you're running it as a cutting torch, it's about a half of, it's about 2 oxygen to 1 acetylene, if that makes sense. Yes, I do. I need a 40-pound tank. That's kind of what I was trying to say, is I need a 40-pound tank for my 20-pound acetylene tank. Yeah. It's just, you get a little bit of a wiggle room. So I do need to do that, but, I also, I have to prioritize where we're putting the money that we get, or my budget for the stream. So, unfortunately, an oxygen tank isn't in the budget right now. Later on, it will be. Yeah, it's as near as it makes no difference, yeah. And if you're using mostly rosebud as opposed to a cutting torch, you'll use a little bit less oxygen. If you're using the cutting torch, you can use a little bit more. So averaging, it's thereabouts 2 to 1 oxygen to acetylene. But yeah, an oxygen tank is a little bit closer on the budget than like a plasma torch. So, there's that. Yes. As the butler is saying, budget right now is going to try and get me to as many conferences as we can. So that's, I think that we're getting a lot of interesting content out of going to the conferences. And I think you guys enjoy them. I enjoy them. I learn a lot from them. So, yeah. You can get plasma torches for $100 US on AliExpress. I don't know that I trust an AliExpress plasma torch. I think that Alex Steele does a review on one, so I don't know. Maybe I should watch his review and see if it's actually worth it. Yeah, there's a difference on how thick. See, this is the 1/2-inch plate. I would need a really big one, All right, let's do another heat. I can get it. I can get it, and then you guys, you know, can watch me struggle with it. That's content, right? If I struggle with it. Now there's a little bit of extra heat there. Oh, what'd I do with my chisel? Oh, and I don't have my glove on either. Oh, I'm losing heat. Organization, Ray, organization. How many times have you harped on that yourself? All right, more heat. Getting more progress, but it's a little bit slow going, unfortunately. Yes, you're right, Butler. We do need to send that back this weekend, and we will. All right, let's change the angle on this camera. Maybe. Except for I moved the table in the way of where I normally put the camera on this side. Let's see how I can do this. Let's put it right there, and I will go around to this side. Let's see, can we do this? Is this a good enough angle? I guess that's a good enough angle. We can do it that way. Such reach. Ugh. This is what I get for trying to have two sets set up at the same time, guys. Ugh. Okie doke. We back. Alrighty. A little bit more heat that we'll need. But yeah, I am super excited about all of the different things that we're up to lately. We are trying to get as many conferences as possible. Hey Yankee, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome in, guys. Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Ray. I'm a blacksmith. Today we're doing some weird things. We started the stream by doing a little bit of fabrication, and now we're doing a little bit of blacksmithing. So right now we are making a... Oh, I forgot to change my title, but you know what? We're doing the same thing we were doing on Wednesday anyway. So we are working on a blacksmith helper, also known as a guillotine tool. So we have made 2 plates. One is in the forge and the other is right here. So this is, so basically I'm trying to cut a window out of this guy, right? So we've got 2 angle grinder cuts for the long ones. The angle grinder is a little bit too big to do the teeny skinny horizontal cuts. So we are currently using a chisel and the forge to make these cuts, right? So we're doing a little bit of blacksmithing in the middle of our fabrication project. And we have also been discussing how it would be way more efficient to use either an oxyacetylene torch or a plasma torch for this process. However, I do not own a plasma torch and I don't have an oxygen tank big enough to cut this piece of 1/2-inch plate. So once we've cut this using the chisel, we will start welding everything together. So basically, we're making the 2 frames so that we can put dies inside. And what I mean by dies is like jaws for like a little crushing thing, like these guys. This is the press, and it crushes the steel in between the 2 dies to create whatever shape that I'm looking for, right? So this is it's basically I'm remaking my press in miniature so that it'll sit on my anvil and I can hand hammer the top of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, welcome in everybody. Welcome, welcome. If you got any questions, let me know. I love answering questions. I love talking. So yeah. How we doing? We're getting pretty nice orange. I am using the steel. The steel right now is really cold for how hot I normally have things. Which die a D20? I mean, normally I use D6s. I don't like D20s as much as D6s, but you know, D20 for D&D, I guess, right? You know, I do use all my dice though, so yeah. I am running the steel a little bit on the colder side, but it is such a large piece of steel, it's going to be really, really hard to get it all the way up to temperature. So we're working a little bit cold and a little bit slow today. Hey, you do you. Yep. Also, my camera's a little bit dark. I've got an ND filter on it. You should be able to see some lovely colors through it. Big old plates. You know what? It helps if you have your hammer. And it also helps if you have your glove, but that's all right. I don't need the glove. What is heat? All right. Discord in the dumps feels bad, man. Oh, is Discord down right now? Is that what's happening? It was fine earlier. You are a blacksmith. You no longer have any heat sensing nerves in your hands anyway. Exactly. Exactly, Bluesy. Down for some users, it says. Ew. Well, it was on earlier. Like, when I started the stream, I had no issues with it. So, I don't know if it recently went down or what. I'll look at it later on when I'm done streaming. I usually do. Apparently, there is my seal on my lid isn't as secure as I thought it was. It's dribbling down my wrist. All right, so we have an ad starting in about 3 minutes, and let's see. I think I'm gonna wait until after the ad to do our next heat, just to give us a little bit more time to soak. We were really, really cold that last heat. Discord has an issue. It seems so. It seems so. All right. So it is starting to look like we're definitely not going to be able to finish this cut, these windows today. So we will have to do the welding on Monday, I think. So if that's the case, I think I'm gonna pull the ND filter off of the close-up cam so we can get a few brighter shots. So I'll probably wait until the ad starts so that I can do that. That way you guys don't have to, watch me do that. I mean, those of you who have subscribed will, but not everyone will. All right. So yeah, I'm super excited about being able to use this tool. A lot of people on both YouTube and Twitch have been telling me that I need a guillotine tool or a blacksmith helper. And it's going to revolutionize my blacksmithing game. And you know what? I believe them. Because I've seen them, I've used them at other people's shops, but I've never fabricated one for myself or purchased one. Welding with a torch or with the forge. I have a holdfast. I do have a holdfast. I also have, a chain holdfast. I don't have that. It's not finished yet because I still have to figure out how to attach the chain to itself. But yeah, we will be welding it with the electric welder, not the forge. I don't have a good method to, or I guess the big forge, it's too cold to do any forge welding in it. The little forge, if it would fit in there, it would work beautifully. Boo! We'll do some forge welding this summer. I do have a plan to do that, but I have to do it with the coal forge because I just don't have a good setup for it with the gas forge. We'll do some. Yeah, I will use the coal forge. Later on, we'll do some coal forge welding. I do want to do another couple of just straight, we're going to forge weld streams. And then we're also going to be doing, I would love to do some Damascus. So my goal is to, by the end of the summer, do some Damascus. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're going to try. We're going to try. All right. We are in the middle of an ad break, and once the ad is over, we're going to pull the steel and do another heat. So I am going to take the filter off. And you know what's going to happen? I'm not going to have the other filter on. Okay. I think it's all right. Ah! Okay. We're good. Just got to be a little bit... Okay, there is an ND filter on it, so I'm good. In an inverse universe, you could forge cut with a cold forge, right? With ice instead of fire? That would be fun. And interesting. Ooh, we've got some good heat on that. Hopefully we'll make some good progress this next time. But you know what? I gotta make sure that I'm using my glove. You know what else I'm gonna do? Move the camera. Let's move the camera. Do. Ooh, this looks so much better, guys. Now that I don't have the ND filter or like the variable filter on it. So much brighter. Bright and shiny. Okay, we is back. Alrighty. Let's grab my glove and try this. That's better, right? It's brighter. You guys can see a little bit easier. Let me know if you like the filter better, because you can see the glow a little bit better, but I think you can just see in general a little bit better this way. You know what? I may need to find a better way to do this. We're not making a lot of progress. Mmm, yummy. I can smell the leather on my gloves from that heat radiating off. So we're not getting a lot of progress this way. So I may end up having to figure out some other way to do this. If I can't get it to work real well, if I can't finish this cut by the end of the stream, what I'm going to do is I'll probably just think about it over the weekend and decide what else I can do to cut this. Sharpen my chisel. It's actually a brand spanking new chisel, right? I mean, it looks old because it's kind of been sitting there for a while, but I've never used it. I hope I can do it. Or grab a Dremel it out. I think a plumber's torch could help. That might work, a plumber's torch. I do have cutting discs for my Dremel, but my Dremel is really, really old and it just doesn't have quite the torque it used to. So I'm just afraid that doing the 1/2-inch plate won't, I'll burn it out a little bit. So I'll think about it and I'll see. I'm trying to whack it. I mean, this is the same blows that I've been using for doing the punches that we've been doing recently, and they've been like double time of my previous punches. So, you know, we're not doing terrible, but it is being a little bit slow. Yeah, just cut what you can with the punch. Yeah, I want to figure out another way. Like, even if it's like, because like my initial thought was, because if I'm doing this, or if I was doing this with or for jewelry, what I would do is I would thread a saw blade through the hole, right? And so I really wanted to use the bandsaw, but you can't really thread the bandsaw through a hole, right? So I don't know. I might use like a hacksaw. That would be so much work though. I don't know. I'll figure something out though. A Dremel versus a 1/2-inch plate feels like a piston brake with a spoon. Oh, a prison brake with a spoon. Doesn't it? That's why I was like, oh, I'll just chisel it, you know, but I'm not getting it hot enough. That's my problem right now. I'm not getting this plate hot enough because it's so large that all the heat is being sucked into the rest of the plate, right? We're not getting a lot of heat in the area that we need to punch. If it's open on one side, I would heat it and then try and bend it out. It is not currently open on one, well, it's open on 2 out of the 4 sides, right? So once it's cut through on one side, I will cut through halfway through and then bend the other side out, because that's going to be a lot easier to do. And I can always straighten the plate out later, but I need to make that initial cut on the one side. So if anybody has any good advice, you know, besides the Dremel, besides a plasma torch, besides a oxyacetylene, you know, because we've discussed those, you know, let me know. Oh, okay. I thought it was cut out on the left side already. Unfortunately, this is our first cut. Like I said, we did the long cuts with the angle grinder, but the angle grinder is a 4-inch disc. So we have a 2-inch, it's not even 2 inches. It's 1.5 inches that we need to cut. So the angle grinder disc is just so big the press with a punch. Can you push this chisel for something similar? Push through with the press. 2 people have suggested the press. I don't know. I don't know. Let me see. So if we're going to do this, we need to lower the floor of the press, because right now the chisel is too tall, right? So we got the chisel and it's got to go under there. So, okay, it's still a little bit too long. Do I have a shorter chisel? Well, that's a shorter chisel. Okay. Mahalo, a spoon is the scariest weapon you can see in the hands of an opponent. Imagine you go fully armed and there's an opponent and they have a smile gesture that you have to come with while all they have is a spoon. If that happens, you should think, what makes them so confident that they can beat me with a spoon? I need a guillotine for the guillotine. Exactly. You know, I need a tool for the tool for the tool. All right, so we're going to take this bottom die out. I think. Okay, so we're going to take that off. And then we'll move that out. Then we'll probably take the top die out as well. Or maybe not. We'll need to. We'll need to. Because this is the shortest one I've got, you know? Blah, blah, blah. How did I even get this in here to begin with? Because I just did somehow. Or maybe it's this way that I need it to go. I don't know. I don't know. Goodness gracious. I have somehow locked this thing in here. Come on. You know you want to come out. How did I do this? How did I do this? Huh. I can do things, guys. I can do things. All right, now we've got the dies off of the press. So, I'm going to put that in like that, in like so. I think that should work. Blacksmithing in a nutshell. Every tool needs a tool, and the tool that never ends. Yes, it totally works. All right. Next thing I need is to plug in the press. Where is, there it is, the cord. Do, 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 do. Alrighty. You can move that way. I'll need that. If the chisel is under tension in the press, I'm afraid it will spring out of force. It might. It might. But if we're real careful and we do it real slow, it should be all right. Because if it's under tension, then it'll probably fling out sideways, and as long as it's not flinging towards me and it flings to the side, it won't be an issue. Yes, slow and steady. All right, we're going to be real careful with this. Super careful. If I think that it's going to cause an issue, I will stop immediately, because I try to be incredibly conscious when I'm doing stuff in the shop. All right, so when I move this, the cameras, you're going to be able to see there's a hole in the bottom plate of the press. Slow is fast, fast is slow. All right, so you can definitely see that there is a hole in the bottom of the press. And that is so that if I ever wanted to do this, I would have the ability to drop a punch all the way through. So it is a kind of a hardy. All right, let's see, I'm gonna move this over here. All right, let's try it. Like I said, we're gonna do this real slow and steady. Real slow and steady. Super slow. All right, so we actually made a little bit more progress. You can kind of see it's bent the plate just a hair. I think this might actually be the way to go. Really slow and steady. Didn't realize how slow, to be honest. That piece cooled down so fast, the poor chisel didn't have a chance to do much. It didn't. But that's how slow I wanted to start, right? I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to like fling. So I needed to make sure. You change your display name, Lucy the retired farmer. See, that works. Poor guy was taking a bit of strain on the last push. It was. Ooh. Yeah, you're right. I don't think we're going to be able to do this, guys. I don't think we're going to be able to do this now that I've looked at this chisel. So you guys can't see this because it's too far away, but it is no longer straight. It's gone down like so. So yes, chisel retired. I mean, it did work for the, like, you know, the first chisel, but yeah, it definitely is not straight anymore. I'll have to fix that one up in, you know, a little bit. All right, so we're going to continue working with the other chisel on the anvil, because I want to make sure that I keep things safe and I'm not wrecking my tools. Can't you still use it for that? I mean, maybe. I think that it's going to be less effective after every press, you know? I think I'm going to have to figure out a new method for this, or methodology. Like I said, I think I'm going to do the next couple of heats here on the anvil. And we'll see what I can do. Maybe I can do subsequent ones with the press. I will think about it over the weekend. We got about a half an hour left in the stream. And so, you know, we got a couple good heats. And we got a good amount of work done with the press. So I don't think we're going to go all the way through today, but, you know, maybe a little bit. So I think the hammer is going to be the better bet for now. For now. It did take me a little bit to decide that, though, because initially I didn't see that the chisel had bent. But the bend of the chisel is you know, it could cause tension in the wrong place, and it could cause a lot of problems. So we're going to be safe about this, and we'll just use the hammer like normal. Oops, that's not the right one. This is. It was definitely a cheap chisel. Definitely a cheap chisel. It was the Harbor Freight special green ones that you get when you initially, you know, are working with like stone or metal. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure out a better way to go about this. A safer way. I'm not entirely sure yet. But I should have it by Monday. So just so that you guys are aware, when I set that up, I set it up perpendicular, right? So the blade was sideways. It wasn't going to flip towards me or away from me. It was going to flip side to side if it were to have kind of compressed and sprung out, because I made sure that the edge was this way instead of this way. Oh, your coal forge would or could very easily melt that plate, you know, very easily, you know. But my big forge, it runs really, really cold, right? Because it's only a single burner right now, and I designed it to be a double burner. I just kind of forgot, because when I designed it and I was halfway done building it, and then I had to finish it a few years later because I had just started it when I got sick. And then, so after I got sick, I had to finish it, if that makes sense. As much as I love how clean and fast gas is, coal is just so much, it gets so much hotter. It's better in a lot of ways, right? But the gas it burns cleaner. I can talk as long as I want without fearing it's going to melt my steel. You know, it's just easier for the stream, if that makes sense. All right, let's do another heat. Well, you know what? The hold down's not working right. You can see it because the plate keeps bouncing up and down. That's why I need the chain one. Make it a lot easier. All right, so if I tip this up like so, you can kind of see how far we've gotten. We got really far with the press. You can kind of see on the other side that it's starting to punch through a little bit. You can kind of see it. We might actually go from that side this time, just to make sure, or just to kind of see. Just like we would turn over a punch. I could go back to the drill press and make some more small holes, and then the chisel isn't working as hard. That is a great idea, Mahalo. And one I had earlier, but for whatever reason, I it went, you know, it left my brain. Would angling the chisel make a difference? More point on the edge. Yes and no. It'd get deeper where the point was, but it wouldn't get as deep after, or, you know, beyond that point, if that makes sense. But yeah, Mahalo, I think that's the way to go. I think you're completely right. I think that I need to make more holes along the edge. I think that is 100% the answer. So I will probably try and do a little bit of that this weekend on the other side and on the other one. Because you're right. That's going to make it so much easier. That's the answer. That's the answer. All right. So we've got about 30 minutes left in this stream. I'm going to come at it from the opposite side, see if I can't punch it all the way through. And so we'll take the next half an hour to figure out if we can do that. For Monday, I will either, if I have enough breath, I will do the drilling over the weekend. If not, we'll do that on Monday. We will make sure that we get our welding done on Monday. For sure, we're going to be welding on Monday. All right, we've got an ad starting in about 3 minutes. But you know, that's kind of what blacksmithing is like with me on the regular, right? I come at it with a preconceived idea of how things are going to go. And then that goes completely out the window, and I have another completely, you know, plausible idea of how things will happen. And then that one is really wrong, and then I have to figure out how to fix it. But you know what? That's what learning is about, you know? And I will definitely remember for the next time I want to do something like this. It probably won't be for a while, though. I don't like working with half-inch plate. Initially, when I was building the press, that's where I got this half-inch plate. That is there's half-inch plate on the top and the bottom so that it didn't bend when I used the press, because that's a 20-ton press. So I wanted that half-inch plate to make sure that it was going to be nice and stable in there, you know? That's fabrication in a nutshell. It's all problem solving. Exactly, you know? And I mean, back when I used to make furniture, a lot of times I would come up with these ideas and the designs, and then I would have to kind of trial and error things. Like, especially when I was trying to put like legs on a chair, right? The angles just weren't quite the right. So I would have to kind of take off a little bit and then test them, and take off a little bit more and test it for welding. Oh, please add a link or list in Discord of all the technical stuff, cam, PC, and whatnot that you use for the stream. Sure, I can try and do that. I'll have to get the butler to help me, though. I'll have to get the butler to help me. When you get the chance. I'll try to remember. I have the worst memory ever. So, like, I keep saying that I'm going to do a 1.5 years, subscriber badge, and I have yet to do it. You know, I said that like a month ago, and I haven't done it yet. So if you post on the Discord, like, a request for that, and hit, or, you know, do the @me, that'll ping me, and hopefully it'll remind me to do it. I will do my very, very best. Yeah, if you ever want to remind me to do something, the best and easiest way to do it is to ping me on Discord, because I hate seeing the little 1 or whatever for, you know, being notified specifically. And so I will look at it and I will figure out a way to get rid of it. So I will see your post. All right. So we have an ad any minute now, I think. It says ad starting, but it hasn't actually started yet. We're not going to use the press anymore. Ugh. You know how I told you that I was trying to keep this closed so that I wouldn't be tasting grit at the last, you know, the last couple swigs? I didn't have it closed. There's a whole bunch of grit in this now. Ugh. The ad break ends in a minute. And we've got plenty of heat. We should be able to do this pretty well. I hope, fingers crossed, it'll work for us. Oh, well done. Yes, I'm drinking grit. Goodness gracious. Excuse me. All right, what else? I don't know. Goodness gracious. You can tell us what kind of steel it is by taste. I mean, I wish I could, but I feel like all steel tastes about the same. At least it does to me. Maybe I just need to be more of a connoisseur. I need to, like, you know, lick more pieces of steel. Then maybe I'll be able to tell 1019 from 1095. I don't know. Kind of like, how much carbon do I get to taste? Depends on the cutting disc used too. Exactly. You know? I remember the one guy from Forge and Fire, the guy licked his steel. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Okay, let's do another heat. All right, we're gonna heat this back up again. All right, so you can kind of see where we're at a little bit on both sides. We haven't made much progress, but some. I think we're doing all right. But I think Mahalo's right. Drilling more holes is going to help us out a lot. Need to make one of those steel holders. I do. I need a better hold down. I tried to make this one and use it because, like, you know, it's one of the more common designs for a hold down, but I have a broken off plate, so it doesn't quite work right. It does its best, though. It does its best. So yeah, I haven't actually seen all that many episodes of Forged in Fire. I try to watch them when they're on or when I can. So like if I am in a hotel room and they're on, or when I'm at my parents' house, they have like satellite, and most hotel rooms have cable, right? We just have internet stuff, and I haven't found it a good place to watch it. So I've only actually watched a couple different episodes. The one that I do remember the most, though, is a guy dropped his steel in the oil, I think, and then he went to re-quench it or something, and he had he put his entire arm in the oil and then stuck his hand near the forge and set himself on fire. It was so awful looking, and then he had these ginormous like blisters all up and down his arm, and he tried to keep competing, and I'm just like, oh, you want to go to the hospital for that. You want to go to the hospital for that. Yes. And I was just watching the show, I'm like, oh, you're airing this? It's a horrible idea. He wants that 10K, I guess. I don't think 10K is good or is enough for that. I mean, maybe he needed the 10K for the doctor, right? Wrap me up, I can finish. Yeah, if you get like a large second degree, go get it treated. Don't keep forging. Maybe 30K skin graft. I mean, right? Ugh, so gross. That's the thing that I think about every time I think about Forged in Fire, though, because it's just like so, you know? It's like, why? I mean, I know that they want drama in that show, but that's not the way to get it. That's not the way to get it. All right. So we are about to wrap up, I think. He took it to a whole new level. Yeah, that is commitment. I don't know. Like he must have been like not even thinking, you know? Because they only get like 3 hours to make their blades, right? And when you're under a lot of stress and pressure, sometimes there's stuff that just you forget it, you know? Like I know that when I'm stressed and under pressure, a lot of times certain aspects of the stream will start suffering. Like I won't move the camera as often. And I know that the last half hour I haven't really moved the camera a lot, and I'm sorry about that, Butler, but it's because I took the filter off. So like, you know, it's like sometimes I kind of forget to move the camera, or I just don't talk very articulately, or, you know, I do terrible when I'm, you know, forging or whatever. You know, stuff starts falling on the wayside when you're really under stress. So there's a part of me that I understand, what he might not have been thinking when he like allowed himself to get that close to the forge mouth while he still had oil on his arm. But still, I don't know, that's one of those where I walk around with the 3 strikes and you're out rule, right? If I make 3 major mistakes that are detrimental to either me or my piece, I wrap up and I go in the house. I don't continue, because if I do, I'm either going to injure myself even more or screw up my project, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So, 3 strikes and you're out. You go inside, right? Well, something like that would be the 3 strikes. I mean, that's just 1, 2, 3 right there. Drop your knife in the bottom, grab down, that's 2, set yourself on fire, that's 3, 3 major mistakes. I don't know. All right, let's do another heat. We'll probably do 2 more this stream. All right, we're going to go back in the heat, and we're going to try 1 more. Ooh, it's getting kind of scaly. Let me clean that off a little bit. All right, so you can kind of see where we are right there and right there. We're getting there. We'll do 1 more heat. Man, I can get very annoyed by the metal I'm working with, especially tongs, when I have failed 4 times already. Stupid thing. My brain just battles understanding directions. I mean, sometimes that's the way it goes, And I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should abide by the 3 strikes and you're out rule, but that's what works for me, And I do advocate for, figuring out what your limits are, when you are forging. Make sure that you're not doing things that are like, boneheaded, stupid moves. Because like, especially if you are easily frustrated, because blacksmithing you kind of need to be a little bit loose and open to, changing directions, right? And when you start getting rigid and frustrated, then it kind of gets a little bit hard to make what you want to do. And so I encourage every blacksmith, to kind of know your limits. Set yourself up for success by, making sure that you're not wasting your time, Now, I think we've only ever struck out 1 time on stream. I've been trying to be very mindful and careful that I don't strike out. And that final strike was close to the end of stream. So like, I think I try to do very well on stream. Like I said, I think I've only ever done it 1 time. So, or since I started streaming. Now, I've done the 3 strikes and you're out numerous times before I started streaming. But you know, when I keep a calmer head when I have to talk to you guys. You know, and I get really hot headed when I'm all by myself. You know, got to be super careful though. This is just a bunch of metal mud, and so I should not drink it. The thing that drives me nuts is the coal is burning away, which is money going down the drain. So the less something works, the more annoyed I get because all I can think about is the money going down the drain. I can get that. I get that. Blacksmith on Fire, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the community. But yeah, I get that too. And I mean, honestly, I have that as well, right? I'll design a project and I know what I want to happen. But sometimes I will skimp on getting the good stuff, you know? And I'll try to make things cheap or cheap out on things. And a lot of times, you know, it's worth that extra money. So, you know, I can't say that I don't get you, you know, because gas and coal is expensive, you know, especially these days when everything is getting super expensive. But, you know, calm, you know? Yeah, when we're by ourselves, things fly off shelves. Pour that out into the quench bucket. You know what? Mahalo, you are the smart today. Super smart. I keep picking up, and I will keep picking it up empty. And you know, go to try and drink it, realize it's empty, and stick it back down. It's just a habit, you know? If I have to think about something, because I feel like I have to keep talking to you guys, you know? I can't really just like slow down, and I know you guys don't mind when I slow down and I pause a little bit, but I instead of saying like and just like pausing, a lot of times I'll just go and I'll reach for the drink, so that gives me a built-in time to, you know, buffer. Do I want to refill? Well, not really, because I've only got about 10 minutes left in the stream. We're only going to do one more heat. Then we will raid off, and I'll be able to get another drink then. And don't get started on clinker. You just fill up the forge, and boom, all the coal just becomes one large chunk in 5 minutes. Yeah, well, some of that, like the coal lump, some of that isn't bad. Right? It's bad when it actually is clinker and that's all that's left, but you really like it, it's really good to have like an oven where the coal kind of like sticks together and creates like a really hot pocket. That works really, really well. So it's kind of like it's like a little bit of a balancing act, right? Because the sticking together, it's not conducive for forge welding, but it's really conducive for heating up your metal to a really nice forging temperature, right? So it's kind of that balancing act. You want to make you like it, but you know, you also don't like you like it when it sticks together, but you don't like it when it's fully clinker. All right, let's do our last heat. All right. Glove. It's my last heat. I notice I get a cold spot when it starts to clinker up. That might also be the case. I use Bitmus coal, and it is famous for kind of sticking together. Not every type of coal is like that, though. So we might be using different types of coal. Alrighty. I think that's all she wrote, guys. I'm starting to get tired. Alright. So, that's where she is right now. That side and that side. We got a lot further on that side because we were using the press, but we kind of ruined our chisel. This side, we just used the chisel and a hammer. That's not terrible. And I think we're going to do a little bit of drilling for our next stream, or I guess maybe this weekend, depending on how well I'm feeling. But yeah, we're gonna relieve that pressure from the chisel by adding some extra holes. Yeah, I have to use anthracite. Very hot, but man, the clinker, I'm sure it's 100% worse than bitmus. Yeah, bitmus isn't actually, it's one of the best types of coal for forging purposes because it does kind of create like an oven effect where it all like sticks together once it cokes up real good. And it just kind of bakes that heat inside of your steel. But it's not available everywhere. So, you know, it's what it is. You use what you got. All right. So thank you all for joining me today. I have had a blast figuring things out. And I know we didn't finish, but you know, we've still got some time. So I will see you guys on Monday, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. If only it didn't have so much smoke. Yes, so much smoke on the anthracite. I've used it a couple of times. Wow, I actually caught the end. Welcome to the stream, Knots. Alrighty, who we got that we can raid off to? Yeah, I had fun too. We don't have too many friends on, so I think we're gonna try Junkyard 129. It looks like they have a wood shop and it's a shop day. Looks like they're working on some wood stuff. Busy couple of weeks at work. Yeah, it is hard when you're busy. All right, guys. I will see you on Monday. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye.